Okay. So we're going to get started. Hello and welcome to Lily's Show and Tell series. I'm Cassandra Nieves, the Lily Web Committee Chair. Lily stands for Lifelong Information Literacy, and we're a group of librarians and information professionals who work to promote lifelong information literacy. Before we begin, I have just a couple of quick housekeeping items. First of all, the session is being recorded, and the recording will be available on the Show and Tell webpage at the end of the week. Feel free to put your questions into the chat. I'm going to keep an eye on the chat and note down any questions or comments for our speaker, which we'll get to at the end of the presentation. Finally, if you want to learn more about Lily or presenting your own show and tell event, I'm going to have my email address in my Zoom name. I'll put it in the chat as well. And now on to our speaker, Charmaine Henriques. Take it away.
I have that bad habit of speaking when I'm muted. Good afternoon or good morning, everybody, depending on where you are. Thank you so much for attending today's Lily Online Instruction Show and Tell session. I know everybody's really busy, so thank you for tuning in. It's great to see all these faces. Hopefully you'll get some really good and useful information in this presentation, but before I start, I have to say, or full disclosure would be the right words to use, that when I started this project, I had zero experience with creating a learning module. I had done some really basic storyboarding for a couple of video tutorials, but I never created a learning module. I never edited or filmed a tutorial. I never did any of that. So everything that I'm speaking of is kind of from the novice perspective, and I have not shared my screen yet with you guys. Here we go. There we go. All right, so just for full disclosure, letting you know, everything is from the novice perspective, because I'm sure there are going to be people here that are not novices. Right? So the first, and of course, this is, I want the previous one. Okay. So now you all got like kind of the preview. So the first question that some of you may be asking about is, what is Scalar? So there we go. So to talk about that, we have to get into a little bit of history to answer that question. So, right, in 2005, a group of University of Southern California affiliated scholars, developers, launched a journal called Vectors, right? And so Vectors was open access and had some form of peer review, but it was really created to experiment with and challenge traditional academic publishing by publishing scholarly content that could not exist in print. So based on their own personal research and their work with Vectors, the group decided that not only did they want to continue developing and evolving techniques for digital scholarly publishing, but they also wanted to create more innovative ways to interact with digitized archival material. So they gathered funding from the Mellon Foundation, National Endowment for the Humanities, and they developed Scalar, which went beta in 2013. So then that asks the question, like, yeah, that's really great that you all I told you all that, but what is Scalar, right? So Scalar is an online, free, and open source publishing platform that enables the creation of digital scholarship by allowing authors to easily combine text and media for an interactive and immersive user experience. Right? So what's so great about it, right? Okay. First of all, it's free, right? As the saying goes, you can't beat that with the stick. It costs absolutely nothing. It was devised to be easy to use. It does have a low learning curve. There is no specific hardware or software needed. All you have to do is have your computer and internet, and you're good. Um, it does support collaboration. I should say in Scalar, projects are called books, and you'll see a little bit later the reason why. And so it does support collaboration, and people could be assigned the same roles or different roles as the author, editor, commentator, reviewer, or reader. And additionally, it does work together with Google Analytics. And I know, people tend to use Google Analytics to do more tracking of businesses, to get that type of data. But for those that are interested in assessment, or want some basic user data, you can use Google Analytics to get that. Okay. So if there's pros, you know that the cons are coming, right? So what are some of the cons, right? So unfortunately, there's a 2 megabyte size limitation. So all images and media files that you, all images and media files that you actually upload can't be any bigger than 2 megabytes, or the platform just won't accept them, right? The other thing, when it comes to online sources, you really have to pick your content, your provider, I should say, um, very good. You have to really pay attention to it, because when it comes to that, you're going to be linking to things from outside the platform, right? And you're going to be importing things from outside the platform. So you want to use things like YouTube, Internet Archive, where the content of those two kind of services, or platforms, or whichever you would like to call them, is relatively stable. So things won't go missing once you start linking to them, or you import this video into your project, and then all of a sudden the video's taken away and it's gone. So you want to use things that are a little bit more stable. This last one isn't too bad, but it's one of those things that just kind of annoys me a little bit. In the sense that there's this really, nifty built-in editor, so you can just type right directly into it and everything like that. But it doesn't accept formatted text. So I had to do old school where, I write everything in Word, and then I had to use Notepad to strip it out and then put it in. And it's not the worst thing in the world, but it can be a little bit tad bit annoying. Right. So what is the usage, right? So the Scalar's primary usage is to create digital humanities projects and online exhibits, right? But people have used it for other reasons, which is good. So in the classroom, students have used Scalar to complete individual and group projects. Instructors have used it similar to course management software, where they can put in their syllabus and any instructions that they want to give to the students. Open access is not new to librarianship, but in the past, the focus has really mostly been on journals. Now that we're moving on into monographs, people have used Scalar to host supplementary material for their books. Um, Instead of using a static web page where scholars can provide their credentials and experience and works, some have used Scalar to craft more, dynamic personal research profiles. However, when it comes to asynchronous learning or self-paced learning, Scalar really hasn't been used in that way. So the beginning for me was I actually, so my initiation into the Scalar world started with this idea during the shutdown to do a digital exhibit. So since I had zero experience with this, I reached out to a colleague for advice, and she was the one that actually told me about Scalar, since it was free. And since she known that I had no experience with this, she felt it was really user friendly. So this is what she suggested to me. So she gave me a couple of of links to some live guides, and the one that you're looking at right now from Urbana-Champaign is the one that I actually looked at. And she also gave me the link to some of the Scalar projects so I can see, what it could do. And really, after looking at the live guide, I thought, okay, I can do this. Like, I can do a digital exhibit using this. But then the whole entire idea and the exhibit kind of fell apart. So I thought, okay, that's that. But then this colleague came back to me and basically was saying like, hey, USC Libraries has a Scalar Summer Institute. You should apply and do it. And so I did. Like, so the USC Libraries Scalar Summer Institute was a free 5-day workshop designed for librarians and others who wish to support the use of Scalar for born digital scholarship and cutting edge collection based digital pedagogy on their campus, as well as those who wish to develop their own projects showcasing institutional collections. Okay, so attendees had to apply to the Institute, be accepted, and have a project to work on. During the daily lab sessions, participants were given an overview of the history of Scalar, went over selected Scalar projects to see its capabilities, and were instructed on some of the platform's more basic features like editing pages, importing and annotating media, creating tags, path, galleries, and timelines. The first 4 days of the Institute were broken down into 2 hours of instruction and 1 hour of lab. The final day was reserved for one-on-one lab time to those that needed extra help with their projects. So for me, the class, so what was my project, right? So there's a class, it's NLTL I-434, the International Climate Governance. It's a 3-credit travel seminar. It rolls up to 15 students. The course focuses on how global governments, institutions, and NGOs' climate policies and actions affect climate issues. Those enrolled in the course learn about the historic origins, interpretations, and implementation of the Paris Agreement, and get to attend the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the UNFCCC. Fortunately, here at Indiana University, we are one of the few universities in the world that send students to the UNFCCC Conference of Parties, known as COP, where they can observe how people negotiate these issues, right? So the deal is that the students function as observers, and they are supposed to follow a specific issue of their choice throughout the whole entire conference. So they go to information sessions, they actually go to sessions where people are talking and debating about these issues. And additionally, they get to interview people. So they can interview, government officials, world leaders, whomever. Um, and they're going to use all of that information, right? Plus, of course, our library scholarly and resources, and also things like newspaper articles and things like that. And so essentially what they then have to turn in when they come back is an annotated bibliography, a report based on their observations, and a research paper. So in this particular way, I was kind of fortunate because before going to the Institute, I could do some preparatory work on my project based on the information that I got during a research consultation from a student that had previously taken this course. So, oops, okay. So the learning module that I created was just really simply, finding information, books, and articles. It included narrative, links, videos, images. It was made up of 6 pages. 2 of the pages were the introduction and the conclusion, and the other 4 pages focused on research-related suggestions and activities. So, for example, here is one of the pages in the learning module. And it's, how to research a topic page. And it gave advice on how to start the research process, using reference sources to obtain background information, and incorporating lesser used resources such as government information, great literature, dissertations, and newspapers into a research paper. So after all of this, like, what were the results, right? And so this is were the results. So much of the class did utilize the learning module, engaging with it on average for 16 minutes and 39 seconds. All of the users were from the United States, which was not surprising since IU is here in the US. Um, the learning module was largely accessed by direct link. Once again, not surprising because their professor gave them the direct link. So it's not like if it had to be referred, like they had to Google it. The most popular page, and this is what I was surprised about because I assumed the most popular page was going to be the articles page. But the most viewed page was the live guides page, which basically explained what the live guide is and explained how to match a subject to a live guide. Whereas the article page covered more searching. So, yeah, so that part I was surprised about. And for variety of, for a very specific reason, which you will all find out later on, I assumed that the students would, start from the first page and go all the way through. And then if they had questions or didn't understand something, they would, start from the first page and go all the way through again. And they obviously they didn't do that, which makes sense. But you'll find out why I thought the other would happen. Okay, so that's what happened with the class. What specifically happened to me as a user? And so the first finding is the interface. So, okay, so the early challenge for learning how to use Scalar was being able to navigate and understand the functionality of all its tabs and features. For all my low tech people, which I'm one of them, like this can be a little anxiety inducing. But the reality of the situation is once you really start getting into the swing of things and using it, it's really not that hard. It's no different from creating a live guide or using Canvas. It's really at that level. So it's just that anxiety of, okay, there's that tab and there's the content tab or the user and what was underneath that again, and how, that whole entire situation as you're in a class and people are moving forward, people are moving forward and you're kind of lost in that a little bit. But yeah, once you get beyond that, it really isn't hard at all. So this is where we start getting into a little bit more. So in the article, Assessing Digital Humanities Tools, Users Use of Scalar at a Research University by Daniel D. Tracy, which was a case study that assessed the use of Scalar at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. It was reported that those that were the most frustrated with Scalar were pupils who had problems figuring out the arranging and writing process needed to meet the content development conditions of Scalar, right? So for us, I'm sure there's going to be, librarians that actually feel this way, the same way as these students. But at its core, Scalar is an authoring and publishing platform whose purpose is to marry multimedia with text. Kind of expecting it to do something else defeats its purpose. It's not just about the media, it's also about the text. They kind of go together. We're a little bit more fortunate because as librarians, we have to, create and plan information literacy sessions. We have to write our articles, do our presentations, assess collections, things of that nature. So we come probably to the table with a little bit more skills than the students to kind of overcome this feeling. Now, here's where it kind of was a little bit problematic for me in particular. Once again, I did my prep work. I had all my images and I had my instructions and I had my searches that I, updated and reran and everything like that. So I kind of thought I was good. But obviously I didn't use Scalar before and I hadn't created a learning module before either. And like I said, I hadn't created even a video tutorial before. I just did some really basic storyboarding for a couple. So while I had everything and I mapped it all out and I was good, the problem for me was kind of bringing it all together to in a manner that it made sense. So for me, what kind of worked a little bit was storytelling. So in the learning module, what I had to do, or what I did do, was I kind of created a character, a student, right? And she had to take this a social science class to finish her general education requirements, right? And so in order for her to graduate on time. So when you're reading, it literally is like a book. It really is like a story. So as the students are going through and reading, um, what they're finding is, okay, this is how she did this. This is how she did that. This is how she did that. So if you just read through it and duplicate the actions that she did in the story, that's what you do to go ahead and get your information for, for your report, for your paper. Right. So the other issue was in this article, practicing collaborative digital pedagogy to foster digital literacy in humanities classrooms. This is from Educos review. Anita Sechan and Herrick Green point out, Scalar was crafted to have a low learning curve, but as users master the platform and move from their first book to their second, there's frustration with not being able to produce projects with more intricate design, like sophisticated examples on Scalar's webpage or in vectors, right? Unfortunately, to make more dazzling projects, a stronger knowledge of Scalar's API is required, and interested individuals would need significant outside support to create these type of projects, and you can get that outside support from the Scalar people. This for me was especially true. Um, when I completed my first learning module, I created a second one, uh, finding information, the quest for scholarly articles, as you see on the screen. And it was for a faculty member who specialized in international security, international law, and humanitarian intervention. I had more confidence, I was more comfortable. I created this learning module, excuse me, in a shorter amount of time. So all of that worked. But I became really annoyed over the fact like that I couldn't like create this learning module with all these, dazzling effects of a Star Wars movie. I wanted my, you know, Steven Spielberg, Michael Mann scalar moment where I was making all of these, dazzling things. And I wasn't going to be able to do that. But in the end, the penny kind of dropped, and I realized, you really don't need all of that to do a good learning module using this platform. I kind of look at it akin to when PowerPoint first came out. Everybody had, we were all worried about the templates and the color schemes and the transitions and the animation. Everything had to fade out or fly to the left, or, all of that. But nowadays, very few people use any of it, and we've seen plenty of people using PowerPoint making very good presentations, right? With just the basics of the software. So it's the same thing here. You really don't need all of that, right? And so the next thing is here for all of you that are interested. Here's just a small, very small list of resources, that you can use to further investigate Scalar to find out more if you wish. And I'm ready for questions.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, you know what? I'm so sorry. Let me do this again. I'm just going to do this really briefly.
Go right ahead.
I almost forgot about this. Just to give everybody a little bit of a, like, I'm not going to focus on it too much, but just to give everybody a little bit of what it actually looked like. So here was the first learning module that I created. Of course, you can just click all the way through. And so this was the introduction that kind of put out the whole entire thing of this, student Jesse who needs to take the class, and the whole entire thing. And so you can just click all the way through And if you want to, I'll do this, click another again. And if you want to, you can just click back, right? But there's also a table of contents, just use the IUCAD one. And so what you can see is that you have your narrative, you have your words, and you can have a bunch of different things. So here is, for example, a video on how to search our libraries, library catalog. You can link out to things, and also, as you can see, you can have images. And if by chance an image, like for instance, you think, oh, that looks too small, you can make it bigger. So that's just kind of like giving you an idea of how things look.
Thank you. We do have one question from our chat. So have you used SpringShare's LibWizard tutorials? And if so, how do you think they compare?
I have not used them. Like, so I can't compare.
Totally fair.
So, what I use, because you mentioned SpringShare, obviously they're the people that created the lab guides. And at my previous institution, we were early adopters to lab guides, so we got all our training there. And if we needed help with something, anything to do with SpringShare, you just went to somebody and you got the help. So yeah, like, so I've never had the need to use it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Does anyone else have a question, whether in the chat or if you'd like to unmute yourself? Okay, don't see anything coming through. So if no one has any questions, we can end our session. If you think of a question later, you're always welcome to contact. Oh, wait, something came through. Do you create any modules in any other LMSs?
Yes. So after this project, I worked with two of my colleagues to create modules in Canvas. And we went with Canvas because I was the outlier in the sense that they knew how to use Canvas and I didn't. So this was my experience to learn how to use Canvas. And so we've created learning modules for two more classes. Both of them obviously international studies classes because I'm the international studies librarian. One was for the capstone seminar and one was for the research and methods class.
So do you have a preference between the two?
I don't know if I have a preference between the two. I think, I tend to like, as far as the look like is concerned, the aesthetic, of course, I like Scalar better. But since, a lot of universities have Canvas and the students are used to using it, there's something to be said for that too. I can't really say there's a difference in usage of complexity. They're both very, very easy to use. So that's probably why I would, I don't say I would have a preference. I think it would be what you want. If you wanted something more aesthetically like, like pleasing, go with Scalar. Like, if you want something a little bit more just straightforward, Canvas works.
Thank you for that insight. Any other questions in our chat, or if you'd like to unmute yourself? Okay, so if we don't have any more questions, you're always welcome to follow up later if something comes to mind later on in the day. I know that can happen. But if that's it, then we're gonna wrap it up. Oh, what? Thank you so much. That was a fantastic presentation. It was great to learn about a different tool to create our information and share it out with students. I'll just remind everyone that the recording will be on the Lilly web guide on sometime on Friday. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you all for having me and coming today.
Thank you. All right, bye everyone.